Welcome back, Hard Forkers. The Monday trading show is back. We disappeared for a week, but they let us back on YouTube, Leanne. Isn't that good?
We're back again.
We're back.
Yay.
And I'm going to let you introduce our special guest for the show.
Yes, today I've invited on a magnificent trader, a friend of mine, and Matthew is the consummate professional with BTC trading, and he's a real specialist in it. And he's a nice hybrid of Tyler Jenks, Tone Vays, Joe Saz, and Socrates. So I love it that he's got all of these methodologies that have, you know, crafted how he trades, which is the best type of trading. It's what I've done. It's what lots of other traders have done. They take the best of everything and make something that works for them. So I've invited Matthew on for our shorts so we could actually get a little insight and handle into where BTC's going after the Highway to Hell horrific soundtrack that was playing in the back for me when I saw the dump.
On my birthday as well, people. My God.
Yes, you ruined your birthday.
Hey, Matt, welcome along. All the names that Leanne just mentioned there were very much the people that I learned about the space. I was a Bitcoin maxi for a good number of years. To a large degree, you know, I'm with a small M now. But Matt, welcome along. Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you for that lovely introduction, Leanne. Yeah, as Leanne said, I'm a trader and I've been trading for many years. I wouldn't say I specialize, but I've been consistently a winner, and I've got a record of increasing my Bitcoin position, and I have done so using different platforms for many years. So I'm happy to be here, and happy birthday, Sean, for yesterday. This is actually the first time we've actually met, Sean, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here. So I look forward to learning from you both today. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So where do you think we should start, team? Obviously, you know, my phone's been running hot with newbies, a little bit terrified with what has gone down yesterday. Should we dive into a Bitcoin chart to kick it off, and then maybe throw a few sort of ideas around?
I mean, Sean, we could also start with Willie's
yeah, let's do that.
take on things, and then we could go to the charts. That might give a bit of context socially, what's been out there on Twitter.
True. Okay. So let me bring up his tweet. Whoops, I brought up the wrong screen. That's Pirate Chain.
We're being raided.
You should start with that, Sean. That's a great story.
Well, yeah, I actually had some people from Pirate Chain on the channel about was it back in August? And I suppose it's the classic hodling scenario there, people. They contributed a few $100 worth of Pirate Chain to the show. We do 1 Bitcoin and 32 Ethereum. And yeah, it's just sat there, and it's jumped up from 8 cents up to about $3.50 today, 1,000% in the last 2 weeks. So hodling works. Privacy coins are actually on the march at the moment, but that's a sort of a subject in itself, I guess, isn't it?
Yes, for another time.
For another time, let's have a look at what different commentators have said about what went down. So Willie Woo, somebody I think all three of us know, great guy. His thoughts here were a lot of this had to do with a power outage in China, which saw the Bitcoin hash rate dropped to its lowest levels since November in 2017. So 50% of the hash rate went down. A bit of a conspiracy theory here, but at the same time, somebody out of Asia moved 9,000 BTC onto Binance. Willie has suggested that person may have had a bit of inside knowledge about what was going down. Other things
I believe the same. Well, it was something Willie suggested and asked the question of. 9,000 went in and 20,700 went out. So was it the same whale?
Oh, it wasn't?
Well, that's the question Willie asked on Twitter.
Right, okay.
He did have a chart that showed around 20,000 went out the same day after the dump. So,
I mean, other things he's noted here, sell down was compounded by the sell-off of quarterly futures used by the more sophisticated traders. I think other things of note here, people, is obviously this chart here from him is showing just the massive up movement into the space. Well, this year, but especially over the last week or so, from retail investors. Now, these are the ones that are obviously all very spooked at the moment. So we will sort of touch on the psychology around that. But any comments on Willie's thoughts here?
I mean, I'm always interested to read these threads, and Willie is, I just absolutely love everything he puts out. At the same time, I also, whilst it's really interesting to look at all the reasons, it really doesn't change anything about the way that you trade. You still have to prepare for these moments that we can't prepare for. So, yeah, so it's interesting to look. Is it a reason? Maybe, yes, but we still have to trade accordingly. So,
very true. Very true. Yeah. I mean, other things that were thrown around in the last 24 hours, and it's quite amazing to always sort of hear opinions after the fact. But, there was these sort of dubious tweets about US financial institutions using crypto to launder money that were floating around in the last 24 hours. CNBC tweeted month-old news about an Indian crypto ban. We also had what I think was very misleading with regards to the Coinbase IPO and the CEO selling off their holdings. In reality, I think it was only 1.5% of the CEO's holdings that were sold there. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of FUD. We've also had Turkey, which has got massive crypto adoption, turning around and banning crypto payments last week. So, a lot of factors.
And a lot of euphoria at the top of, I use Twitter to gauge sentiment. And actually, on reflection, it was just so bullish that got punished. So,
well, I kind of, this is probably where I'm leaning towards, Leanne, and I think you've maybe just summed it up there. As I said on our last show, I wasn't quite high leverage longs on both Bitcoin and Ethereum. I didn't get burnt too badly. Unfortunately, caught the falling knife at the right time, so it sort of recovered a wee bit there. But when you look at the funding rates, when these huge leverage positions, I think 10 million people lost over that 24-hour period.
I think it was about 5 billion.
Sorry, 10 billion rather.
Bitcoin, liquidations. I'm not sure what the futures breakup of all of that was, but it was a shake. Well, is it a shakeout or is it a trend change? And this is what we need to dive into.
Shakeout for me. The retails here, the whales, overheated. We're going up nonstop. Boom.
I know Matt and I was out at breakfast. I know you were having your birthday. I was out innocently eating breakfast, and a friend that just recently got into crypto, she said, "It's 51,000." I said, I nearly spat my coffee out. I said, "Sorry." I said, "Do you mean 61?" And she goes, no, it says 51. And I'm like, look, and then Matt's text me. So it was an interesting shock for everybody.
Matt, you're our BTC man here. Give us your thoughts on what went down.
Yeah, I'm a funny guy because I don't pay any attention to any fundamental analysis. I don't even look at it. So I have no idea. I can't speculate on what caused the dump. I think it's probably just something was the catalyst, and then a cascade of shorts were liquidated and whatnot. And I don't know, stop losses were hit. When we go into the charts later on, I'll explain how I played it. I'll just talk to what I saw and how I saw it, and from there, and just try and explain the psychology of how to act around it. So trying to demystify how to trade and simplify it a bit and guard yourself. So
should we dive into a BTC chart and give us your thoughts as we go?
Let's start, Matt.
Okay.
I think the audience is sort of bored of us talking about what happened. They all want to know what the hell's going to happen next.
We want to get into the charts. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so I'm going to start right now on the 4-hour time frame. All right, it's a good place to start. Okay, so as you all know, I don't know. Can you see my mouse there? I'm just a little test. And are our heads in the way of the
I'm
price?
going to move you down.
All right. Sorry, guys, I'm new to
Should be
this.
good there. Just
It's okay.
I'm going to have to minimize our faces. Sorry, guys. All right, cool. All right, so briefly explained, I was in a substantial long from around 53,000, and before the dump, I was over a Bitcoin, about a Bitcoin and a half in profit. Now, I didn't trim at all throughout the whole trade. I had my stop loss at break even, and it was liquidated. So I came out of the day at break even. I immediately re-entered the trade. This green line you can see right here is where I entered at 54,230. So I'm currently about half a Bitcoin up, well, more now. I'm not quite sure, maybe 3/4 of a Bitcoin up already on that play. Why I entered the trade is a few things, and I'm going to go through the things that I look for. I don't overtrade. I might only make a handful of trades a year, so it's not very sexy, I know, but the trades that I make, I look for really, really good entries, okay? And this for me was a no-brainer entry, and I'll explain why. There's a few things going on this chart right now. These are all moving averages, so we've got a 7 period, a 30, a 50, and this line here would be the 200. On the 4-hour time frame, I always buy under the 200 EMA. And if we go back in time, I'll show you how consistent that's been. So this whole green filtered area is where I will always buy Bitcoin, okay? In a bull trend, mind you.
So Matthew, just to clarify, the green is your 200.
Yeah, so everything below that's the edge of the here is I filtered this in here, but basically I put this green spot in because this is where I want to be buying. I want to be buying under the 200 EMA, and I might start pyramiding in to trades under the 200 EMA on the 4-hour time frame, and you can see how consistent it's been even this year alone. And so once I get into a trade, I go heavy into a trade. I don't add to trades as they're going up. I like to get full exposure to what I want throughout this period in under the 200 EMA, which I did again here. Okay, so I was in these longs here. That one got stopped out, and I just re-entered. This will keep working. It'll continually keep working until it doesn't. And I know that sounds funny, but in a bull trend, you can go back and back test this. This will work. It might work 20 times throughout a 2-year bull trend to get you fantastic entries into trades. And the one time it doesn't work, you need to be out of the trade. And how can I tell? This red line here is my stop loss, but how do I know when to get out of the trade? We're going to go to the daily time frame, okay? So I'm going to strip this back to the bare bones and explain why and where I would be fully out of any long exposure. And it goes back to Tyler Jenks's Consensio, okay? So I'm a student of Tyler Jenks. I learned all of my trade strategies from essentially Tyler Jenks alone. So sorry, just please excuse me about...
That's fine. I was a massive fan of Tyler. Followed him religiously. Quoted him in the articles I've written. Great guy.
You're never going to lose money following Tyler Jenks' series. It's just fundamentally sound money management and sound trading. And it's not just for Bitcoin. It's for everything. Tyler Jenks was the consummate professional, and I really respect him. But what we're looking at right now, with the price completely taken off, is the 7-period exponential moving average and the 30-period moving average on the daily time frame. And you can see initially when this crossed, okay, you would have gone long, and that was at 10,800 give or take, and you would still to this day, according to Consensio, be in this trade. Now we got close here, so that could be a coin toss. You could have exited here and then just re-entered immediately after, or if you were asleep and missed it, you would have been fine and remained in the trade. A few times we've come down and got really close. A month ago, we got really, really close to crossing here, and I was on guard, but I had entered the long from 53 from here as well. And we're at that point again right now. So to add the price back on, I am still bullish until I have to reconsider. So right now, I am still fundamentally bullish on Bitcoin until the 7-period exponential moving average crosses the 30. And as I say, it hasn't done that yet. A couple of other things very quickly that I was looking at to confirm that we were still in the upward trend. On the daily time frame, even though we crashed, we ended up closing the day above the 50-period moving average, which is what I was hoping it would do. And then, as today is Monday, we opened a new weekly candle, and for the weekly candle, we opened the candle, closed the candle, and opened a new weekly candle above the 7-period moving average. Okay, these things I was really looking for confirmation that it was just a pullback. And if you look back, at no point since Consensio crossed here at 10,000 have we actually closed a candle below the 7-period moving average on the weekly time frame. This is really good confirmation that it was just a pullback. Okay, but just to reiterate the point, should we get the 7-period moving average to cross the 30, and it would need a few days below the 30-period moving average to accomplish that, I would fully exit this long position and I would consider going short. But I don't want to be bearish until I have to be. Going back to the 4-hour candle, things are starting to look pretty good. To couple my buy here on the bounce, we were on the RSI down below here. We were in extremely oversold position on the RSI, and you can go back and back test this. It doesn't like to be that oversold for very long, and when it does, it's a good time to buy. You know, and that's been proven throughout time and time again. So that's the end of my screen share. That's what I'm seeing on Bitcoin at the moment. I'm sorry if that was a bit messy. There's a lot of things going on, but just to sum everything up, I still remain bullish because we pulled back up, but I'm definitely on guard to watch the Consensio cross.
What were the price levels that you think are important at this point on Bitcoin?
I'm going to go back into the screen share just while I can have a look.
This is great. I haven't had a Consensio chat on the channel before, so it's a bit of a blast from the past there. Great to understand it.
All right. Well, ideally, we need to bring this. We're on the daily time frame right now. I really need to see continued upward movement here to get above the 30. Yep. If we get above the 30 and then push on to go above the 7 exponential moving average, it will stop it from crossing over. Because the longer we remain below the 30 and below the 7, it'll continually move down. And we've only got a few days left, so it's a really exciting time to be trading right now, because we have a really clear-cut definition of whether the trade is whether the trend is up or down, if the bull market is exhausted, or if we're going to go into a bit of a prolonged pullback. And that doesn't mean I'm saying we're all out on Bitcoin and I'm selling all my HODL or anything like that. It just means in terms of pure trading, and especially leverage trading, I wouldn't have any long exposure until Consensio indicated that the trend was going bullish again. And I apply this Consensio theory to my entire portfolio, whether it's in traditional stocks. I don't trade altcoins, which we'll get into later. I don't have anything to do with them, but I would use the same theories on them as well. I would relate this to everything. You want to be in a trend that's bullish, and you want to be long in a trend that's bullish, and you want to be short or out fully into cash if the trend is no longer bullish. If we cross here, I mean, there's nothing stopping us from going, I don't even know where. I don't like to make those kind of guesses, but I will re-enter bullish again down the line. And that's what I'd do. I will stop screen share now and throw it back to the group.
Yeah, Leanne, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I use a similar methodology to Matt. I use my moving SMAs and the boss method. And I mean, I'll show you my charts.
And for all of those that are itching to look at altcoin charts today, people, there will be some, but you all got a reminder yesterday, whatever Bitcoin does, the entire market does.
That's it. So I have different moving averages. I've got a 7, a 21, a 77, and a 231. And it's the same philosophy as Matt's. I'm looking for rejections at the MAs, and I've also got support and resistance in. So I actually played around a little bit today. I had a trend line in up here, a localized one, but I've actually gone in and put a channel in that matched the trend line down here with a larger channel. And I don't, channels and trend lines, you can sort of move them to fit your bias, but I actually like to play around with them to inform what my moving averages are doing. I've actually just put little highlighters here just to see where we're at visually, and that we are still making a higher high. So a lower high, sorry. No, what are we making here? A higher high.
A higher low.
So, sorry?
A higher low.
A higher low, yes. Sorry, I'm a little bit getting confused on my higher highs and lower lows. That makes for a wonderful trader, doesn't it? So I've got my pink lines are always zones. They're not exacts. So they're zones I'm looking for. So that's, I had that one already drawn in and it has tapped that area. So I'm actually looking for a recovery up to the 59 zone, which will hit my 77. And often in my methodology, we will hit the pressure here and we'll come back down to tap the 231. And then it's something I watch to see where we take off from there. So it's the same sort of methodology and principles that Matthew has, but it's just a different set of moving averages. Yeah, so that's what I'm watching out for. I didn't expect it. It was a possibility, and now I just have to react. And if I go down on the lower time frames, I can gauge a little bit better. Yeah, we've got a lot of pressure up here on the 231. So my blue area is my 231 and Matt's was the green one at 200. And I've got my 77 MA here. So that's overhead resistance to me. And I like to think about it like the ocean and waves is squashing down the price. Mm-hmm. So for me, we might tap that and reject back down. But then when the turn happens back up is what I'll be looking for. So I'm not surprised to see, I want it to reclaim this area. For me, that's really important. And then what usually happens after watching this for so many years is we swoop back down and we retest the area and break through if it's to remain bullish. So for me, I need to see a reclaim of the 59.5, 59.60K sort of area. That would be nice to see.
Well, certainly hitting there at the moment. Yeah, for me, I've been sort of looking at, the 50-day SMA, which I think is 56.285. But yeah, getting up above that 57.5 and holding it again, building a base above there is I guess also what you're saying here, Leanne. So yeah, it was a dramatic day. Any thoughts for newbie traders from a psychology point of view? I had a lot of shock phone calls in the last 24 hours. You want to share through a few thoughts around that one, maybe?
Yeah, I'll jump in if you like. I wanted to explain this and I forgot it anyway. So there's a few things to know about trading, and it takes a lot of years to understand this. And it's even different if you've read a lot of books about how to become a day trader and things like that. There's something that they miss, and I want to explain something that I've adopted to my own trade strategy, and it has been really good for me. The skill is the entry, the exit, and where to place a stop loss. And most people know they can enter wherever and they can sell when they're in profit, and they always place a stop loss. And if you've read the books on trading, they'll tell you 7% is your maximum exposure. Anything less than that, you pull the pin on the trade, or so you set your stop loss, stop loss 7% down or whatever like that. But the psychology in that I think is wrong, because of course you could say, well, I'll buy here, buy at any price, and I'll set my stop loss 7% lower here. Great, okay. But fundamentally, you still believe that we're in a bull market, and even technically we're still in a bull market until we're not. So you'll find yourself constantly getting stopped out of trades. And so the question is, where should you place a stop loss? Okay, and that's the hardest thing to know how to do. So where I place a stop loss when I'm initially entering the trade is at a point, it's not, I don't gauge it on how much like risk I have, or what my risk tolerance. You know, I'm only going to lose $1,000 and that's it. So I work out a percentage of $1,000, and that's where I'm willing to lose. I never think about that. If I have the conviction to enter a trade, and as I said, I don't trade very often, less is more as far as I'm concerned. I want the stop loss to represent where I was wrong and admit that I was wrong. So for me, looking at the 4-hour time frame right now, and I'll show you this on a greater scale, I have placed my stop loss down here at 51,500, okay, give or take. Why? I placed it there when I initially entered the trade at 54,200 was because we wicked down here and then we recovered. And then when we came back down on the second time down, that's when I entered, when we started to recover from there. Now, if we were to come back down again and then get below here, that for me would signal that I was wrong, that this trend is cooked. It's no longer going to the upside. I don't expect it to springboard and double bottom off here from there. So the psychology of where the stop loss goes is that if it gets triggered, I'm fine with being wrong. I can admit to being wrong. It's not just, oh, I put my stop loss here, but if it comes down and wicks me out, I got to quickly get back into it. If I get stopped out of this trade, then I'm satisfied that I was wrong, and I can accept that, and I'll take some time to reevaluate why I was so confident to go into that trade in the first place. The other thing to note is, notice now how I'm in a good profit here. I mean, it's gone up, I don't know, $3,500 from where I entered. This actually stop loss is now gone. I left that in here to show you today. I've already moved my stop loss to break even. So for me as a trader, I'm happy to take a break even stop. I won't trail the stop loss up. Okay. I don't keep raising it after every candle or anything like that. For me, it's all or nothing on it. On every trade I make, it's all or nothing. I will ride this trade to two options. One, a continued bull market moves up to 70, 80,000 and I'll be in a few $100,000, $500,000 profit, $1 million profit, whatever it might be, or I stop out of break even and reevaluate. There's only two options for me. I will of course trim on the way up, but essentially I'll stay in the trade as long as it lets me. And that's my market psychology. So just to end screen share.
Yeah, that's
how I trade.
Great commentary. Leanne, thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's really important. And it's something Matt has also reminded us in trades, and I've been stopped out a few times, and it's, where is your trade invalidated? Not where's the most obvious place to get stopped out. So there are really interesting ways to look at it, and it's a really simple thing. Where is the thesis of your trade incorrect? And that is where your stop loss should be. And that applies to anything.
And it can be really dangerous too, Leanne. Thank you. Because, and that's why I really love entering under the 200 EMA and when the RSI is oversold, because the distance from your entry point to where the trade is invalidated is very short. So you don't have very much risk. It's a low risk trade for me. But if we were up and moving up and up and I wanted to enter a trade, for the trade to be invalidated, the gap is so far that anything more than a spot buy is too much risk. It's too much risk. If you were in a 2, 3, 4, 5x trade, you're risking your entire position for the market to pull back but still be in a bull trend. And so it's a trade is off the table for me. It must be a low risk trade, and that's exactly what we had yesterday.
And it was on the and you know, sticking to the time frame that works for you. So you're on the daily and 4-hour, you refer back to the 4-hour, and I often use the daily and 4-hour. 1 hour is probably as low as I'll go, unless it's a scalp, of course, but it's important to not get combobulated with all these time frames as well.
I guarantee you'll make more money trading in one trade a year that works, and it's a great, you enter the trade at the start of a bull when Consensio crosses. If you enter the trade there and stay in it until Consensio crosses negatively again, you might make one trade a year looking at the daily time frames, once or twice a week. You check the charts, you'll make a hell of a lot more money, and it's a lot easier, and you'll be more proficient overall than making 1,000 trades of little short scalpy trades looking at the 1 minute time frame. I've got a proven record of demonstrating that that's accurate. And so unless you're the Joe Saz of the world who can read the market and do fantastic things like that, or if you're Tone Vays, or which you're not, or you would be, you know, you're just punters.
I know
like us,
Joe
but
Saz
you've
loves
got to
the
have
one
a
on the 5 minute.
foundation. Oh, it would do my head in looking at that.
Joe
It's too
loves
much
the
work.
5-second chart sometimes.
Ah.
And I asked him today, he will come on the show at one point for us. So, but yeah, Joe's a phenomenal scalper.
Fantastic. Yeah.
But yes, you've got to know what.
Sorry, Leanne, go on.
No, sorry, I was just going to say it's all about knowing what type of trader you are, which we talked about the other day.
True. Now we've got lots of different traders watching the show, so we need to scratch that altcoin itch, Leanne. I know Matt's having none of that, are you?
Matt.
No, Ma. I'll have to excuse myself from speaking for the remainder of the show. That's probably
we'll whip through.
Probably your
alts,
fans
Matt,
are happy
we'll
about
back
that.
To you.
Yeah, I'm not showing many today. I'll save that for the next one. But just some interesting things that came out of that dump I just thought were quite interesting talking points. I'll just cover ETH quickly for you, Sean. Your favourite coin?
Second favourite.
Not my favourite coin. Oh yeah, sorry, your second favourite. So again, let's get the higher lows correct terminology happening and not mix myself up. So again, I just highlighted those just to see in the trend channel where we were. I need that, as I said, I used to be an art teacher. I need a visual snapshot. And we touched down at the, down to here, what's this, the 2000 range, snapped back up. The supply was tested pretty quickly. And again, now I want it to hold this region, the 2100 zone. And before on the show, I think I'd mentioned that this targeting zone was, I think I was $50 off for that zone. So now I just want it to hold this region and stabilize here before I decide what it will do next. So that's okay. And then I wanted to show this one as a comedy. Well, it's not really a comedy, but for anyone that got liquidated, but this is Ren. And, you know, it's had a lot of publicity of late, but the reason I'm showing this is I mentioned on the show the other day why I don't set hard stops. Because I follow the daily trend or the 4-hour and I'm in trend, there's no need for me to set a hard stop unless my trade's invalidated. And I'm in spot positions with this. I'm not in a futures leverage contract. So I've got time to adjust and assess. Now, if I had had a worst case scenario stop loss and I was in this trend, I've just been taken out of it and I can't even rebuy back because the supply that was in a liquid market. And if you were trading futures on that, you would have got liquidated. And, you know, I said the other day, if you're trading futures on altcoins, I mean, in any market, but particularly illiquid altcoins, it's moments like these that you will be liquidated and your portfolio will be in carnage. If you were in spot, it's snapped back up to the trading range. So that was an interesting example of what can happen. The only other one I was just going to show you was, I don't think I showed the chart, but I mentioned it. Sol, one of the FTX, one of Sam's coins, held up so well. We had the most beautiful supply test. It got eaten up in a nanosecond. And now, you know, we're back up in the zone of the trend being intact. So that is another reason why on the daily charts, I'm not setting any hard stops unless my trade is completely invalidated. Because in a dump, an altcoin often shoots straight back up and then you can reassess the trend. So again, it's knowing what type of trader you are. I was in spot positions. I wasn't in leveraged futures condition trades. So it's, you know, it's what type of trader are you? If you got liquidated on alts in futures, then you need to reassess your strategy for sure.
Leanne, could you explain what you mean by a supply test for the noobs?
Oh, sorry. That's where when a dump occurs, and it happens in Bitcoin often, when a dump occurs and we get that wick down, and then the wick sends the price straight back up. It's the buyers have bought up anything that was dumping, and there's no supply left, so it shoots the price straight back up. And in Wyckoff theory, that is one of the indicators for knowing if you're in trend still, which for Sol, the supply was eaten up by the buyers. It's in hot demand, and that's where the price was tested. So the price was tested at around 20. So I could safely assume in a trend that stays intact that that's where my next bottom is, my support. So yeah, so that's a supply test, and we'll get Baloo on to talk about the Wyckoff theory with that language. But that's what a supply test is, where you're testing the price and how hot we are in the trend. And as you can see, we just, it's back up into the zone to keep the trend intact, on track to $36 where I'd pinpointed.
Excellent. Very good analysis.
Yeah, thank you. That's all we have there for me. And I'm not going to go over all altcoins, but they were just two examples of what happened during the dump in relation to Bitcoin, who rules what happens.
Yeah, bit of a reminder of that yesterday for everyone, eh? So, I mean, I think it's maybe good just to have a bit more of a chat on Bitcoin. Matt, I'd love to hear a bit more about your background. Are you... I mean, I talked till I'm blue in the face and have written, I think, 400 articles on Bitcoin before I started the YouTube channel. Was a hardcore Bitcoin maxi. To what degree do you, for me, Bitcoin's got those three attributes: unconfiscatable, uncensorable, and obviously the third, which is where we're seeing the price go up dramatically, anti-inflationary hedge based on an asset where you've only got to figure out the demand side, supplies fixed and predictable, and we know the total amount of Bitcoin there's going to be. But it's those first two attributes that really attracted me to Bitcoin. I'm still very passionate about that. It's sort of get a little disappointed that most newbies bypass those attributes of Bitcoin. They want to know what's happening with the price. Could you tell us a bit more about what attracted you to the space, and why you're a Bitcoin maxi?
Yeah, I wasn't always a Bitcoin maxi. I went on the same journey that I suppose everybody did, where I remember staying up, living in Japan, and waking up at 3 a.m. to get into some, what were they called? What do they used to call them? ICO drop things, and signing up in the white lists and buying my 0.0025.
Oh, it's all still here.
Yeah, no, I invested probably like $1,000 back in the day, like 5 years ago into that sort of thing. I just had no interest in it. It just, as soon as I think it was Tone Vase and Tyler that when I started getting into their shows, I just never went back to having any interest in altcoins at all, to be honest. And it's really made things very simple. I've become a fairly proficient little trader, just trading Bitcoin alone. I mean, you've already got, in my opinion, like one of the most fastest appreciative assets of all time, and then to use leverage on it as well, and then to think that that's not enough for you, I think it's quite bizarre. It's more than you would need. It beats all traditional markets anyway. I trade traditional markets as well. I'm a stock analyst as well, but most of my holdings are in Bitcoin. And it's actually a funny thing, because about a year ago, maybe 20% of my net worth was in Bitcoin. And I noticed about a month ago that it was now about 95% of my net worth was in Bitcoin, and it actually started to scare me. So I actually started selling Bitcoin, physically selling Bitcoin and buying land and buying a house and all this sort of things with some of my Bitcoin, simply because, not because I stopped believing in Bitcoin or I thought we were topping or anything, just with a reallocation of money that I thought it's really, really dangerous to have 95% of your entire net worth in one asset. So I started putting it into land and buying a really nice house and all that.
That
sort of
raises
jazz.
a really interesting point. I'd love to hear both of your opinions on it. I think we are obviously, we've got a lot of retail coming in at the moment. That's a bit of a field day for the whales. But where I'm going with this, based on your comment there, I think with all this institutional money, they're going to have the same situation. If you take a Michael Saylor, for example. We know his entry prices, the majority, I think, of that investment's been doubled. So you will potentially see a lot of institutions rebalance their portfolios in the future, where all of a sudden, that 1% or 2% allocation has become 5-10% of their balance sheet. So I think we probably will see very big market corrections based on that type of action moving forward with Bitcoin. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but the beauty of it is that we're still in the early stages of them starting to allocate towards Bitcoin. So that might be 5-10 years away when they're starting to reevaluate their asset position and start to trim. But it'll be absorbed by that point anyway. So I'm not really overly concerned about it. There's only upside in those fundamental reasons to believe in Bitcoin, as far as I can see. Just as a personal man with a wife and children, I had to allocate towards land, and I still think that land's a pretty solid investment in terms of a store of value anyway. So I had to do that.
Well, any scarce assets, the thing to be in at the moment, and Bitcoin's the king there for me. Thoughts, Leanne?
Yeah, look, a bit like Matt, except I did it at the wrong time. Last year, I had built a small house, and I cashed out some of my crypto only to see it, 10x. But
I feel your pain.
At the end of the day, I had to go, and Chris Dunn, my mentor, I actually told him, and he's like, remember, you've improved your life. So, and Matt and I were talking about this the other day. He's got a beautiful story he'll either share to another time maybe about his dad. Yep. And we'll do that on another show. And I had to actually come to some peace that when actually I improved my life. I live in a beautiful house, and my trading portfolio helped provide that for me. So, and my HODL, that stays, but my actual trading stash, So yes, I will always have Bitcoin, but there will be moments in time when portions of that portfolio need to be allocated to living. So,
and that's actually the thing with me as well. Sorry, Sean. I mean, if somebody was to ask me how much have I actually got invested in Bitcoin, the answer is actually zero, because I've already at least 3 times over recouped my initial investment. So I'm actually trading with house money, and I have scores of Bitcoin. So I'm really passionate about trying to teach my method of risk management, which is simply that. I mean, I've spent the last 4 or 5 years investing in Bitcoin, and when Bitcoin got up to around that 50, 60 mark, I started selling. I've cashed out. And
what's the cheapest Bitcoin you ever bought?
3,800 in the market crash that we had, the Black Swan crash. Yep. I had $20,000 Australian stacked between 4,000 and 3,000. So during the wick, I picked up everything. I picked up everything. So I bought 20 grand's worth of Bitcoin between 3,800 and about 4,500. And then, I mean, I've sold it already. So I cashed out of it.
Fantastic. Leanne, what's the cheapest Bitcoin you ever bought?
Oh God, I bought at the top in 2017.
That wasn't the question.
No, it just made me laugh. I'm like, oh yeah, I bought 20k Bitcoin, which I did. I never hide that from anyone. I got in right at the end of the bull market. But the cheapest I bought, I think, was around 13k. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I bet you both. I was buying it well below 1,000, but for me, this is before the hard forks and all the drama there in mid 2017. So at that stage, I kind of viewed it as something that was there to be spent. So we had a bit of a circular economy on the island I was living on. They were all crypto mad friends of mine, and that's how we paid our bar bills, our hotel bills, everything, all the trade between each other. It was all in Bitcoin. So I've had some super expensive bar bills when I look back on that.
I know it's awful to do that, and I was doing that with the house too, and I'm like, no, you just have to stop. It's awful. It's awful.
Look, it's another, I separate Bitcoin from the rest of crypto. I think they're two very different things. I think Bitcoin doesn't have a competitor. I think, for me, that's such an important lesson I'm always trying to get across to people. It's an asset that really is encouraging saving, whereas our fiat system is purely based on debt creation. And look at the path we're going down on that. So, while this is a trading show, I think it's fantastic to have the opportunity to, talk about the other really important attributes of what Bitcoin is for me. And, Matt, great to have you on. The first Maxi on the channel in a year or two. So I might have won some brownie points back with Tone Vase, who's told me I'm not coming back on his channel unless I stop talking about shit coins.
Well, thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me. I probably won't be allowed back on your show with all the comments here. Who's this idiot with his Bitcoin Maxi? No,
that's certainly not the case. I think you've added a hell of a lot today. It's been a real pleasure meeting you and having you on.
Thank you, mate. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. You're absolutely more than welcome back here anytime. I mean, what I'm sort of attempting to do, especially on this Monday trading show, any traders, thank you, Leanne, for bringing Matt on today. But yeah, we're endeavouring to show as many sort of thoughts and opinions from across the space to the audience. There's real different levels of traders that watch this show. So the more thoughts and opinions, the better. We've heard who you learned from, people I massively respect, and in your case, Leanne, Chris Dunn, I think is one of the best as well. So yeah, having the two of you on this particular show, for everyone watching, you've got some pretty knowledgeable people here in front of you today. So I'm sure
from the best, yeah.
yeah. So any sort of parting thoughts or comments for the viewers, Leanne?
Parting comments. Well, what I was just thinking about when we were talking about taking profits was that quote, nobody ever went broke taking profits. So
was that Warren Buffett? Was that Warren Buffett?
I don't know who that was, actually. I don't remember.
One of those, one of the old guard.
But even I had to evaluate. I'm constantly adapting to the market. So even my profit taking strategy will change a little bit over the next few months too.
Yeah, I guess last question I'll maybe put to the two of you. Have you got any, Matt, it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts here because you are only trading Bitcoin. But have you got any thoughts on where we are in this particular bull cycle? Obviously, you've shown us Consensio, and clearly you're saying it could be over in the next couple of days.
Consensio.
I guess I just answered my own question.
No. I mean it's a perfect question because and my general rules would apply to all markets, and they apply to all markets, and you just the point is don't force it. Let the market tell you what's happening. I don't try and make I've been known to make all sorts of predictions, but I don't try and make predictions. You got to play the cards that are dealt. So we're absolutely at a crossroads right now. So the most prudent thing to do would be to stay in cash, to be honest, because I don't see a drop as being a big deal. If a drop to 20,000 would be magic for a lot of people who missed the entry. I'm not saying that it's going to go to 20,000. I'm just saying view everything as an opportunity. If you are in a 10x long right now with no stop loss in place, then you're mad. You're mad. You've got to have a strategy, and the strategy is either be long with a stop loss at break even or slightly below break even, or be in cash and wait for the market to tell you. I mean, basically, without even looking at the charts right now, I can see them from memory. As we've crashed down, you could have caught the wick and entered and then had a tight stop, then as it's risen, put it to break even, or you could wait till we recover and start moving above all the moving averages, and then it's confirmed that we're back onto the bull trend, it's recovered, you could enter then. That would be a safer trade, or just stay in cash. And if we drop down, you've got an opportunity to start DCAing in. You're going to win either way if you're smart. There's no reason to lose in trading. It's up to you. It's a funny thing because I'm a really big, huge fan of all the Market Wizards books. If you haven't got Audible, or if you can't read, go to Audible, like me. The Market Wizards series are fantastic. It's the foundation of trading through real professional world-class traders. I really recommend it. But the thing that they always talk about is the best traders in the world, they love trading. Some of them think of it as like war, we're going to war. Some of them, it's just like Sudoku, it's a game. And the more I thought about myself and in reflection of trading, it is a game, it is a war, but you're not challenging. I'm not challenging you, Sean, or I'm not fighting against you, Leanne. I'm not fighting against the big whales. I'm not fighting against anyone. I'm fighting against myself and my own psychology. And if all I can do is beat myself, or I can lose to myself, okay? And that's not talking about me. I talk about one can lose to their self. So think about it like that. You are battling your own emotions and your own psychology. And that's the way I think that you should view each trade,
Yeah.
That's my final thought.
I think that was brilliantly said. So, I mean, that's a wonderful parting thought from you. But come on, Leanne, you got to come up with something equally as good to close out the show.
I can't beat that, but I can. That's why I brought Matt on. I can reiterate that to Matt's point about strategy, and I've said it in the last show. If you don't have a strategy, you need to go and get one, or you need to get mentored. And we've both been mentored. So Matt and I are in the Crypto Jungle, links below, shameless plug. But the point is, find something that works for you, because if you don't have a strategy, you have nothing in these markets. You are gambling. End of the story. That's how I'll leave that.
Yeah, I'll give the Crypto Jungle a plug as well. I think people watching this, they've just fantastic commentary from both of you today. So the links below to Crypto Jungle, go and hang out with these guys in there, learn some more people.
And we're getting Baloo on. Baloo's coming on with us too. So the Wyckoff guy. So there's 3 different, it's wonderful to have exposure to all different styles, so that you can see what works for you.
Yeah, totally. Well, look, I massively appreciate both of your time today, and I'm sure the audience does as well. Hit the like button, people, to prove that. And we'll see you back here later in the week with Leanne and Matt. You're always welcome here, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you, and thank you both for your time today.
Welcome. See you.
Thank you, mate.
Excellent.
Thanks,
and thank you to all of you for watching. Links below, Crypto Jungle, other social media links for these guys and myself. And we will see you back here tomorrow and back with Leanne later in the week. Cheers.
Cheers.
Now.